And whenever human beings have tried this to understand the personality of God or even the attributes of God without the help of revelation, this is exactly what has happened. You see, look at the current example of is Christianity. They believe quite staunchly that Jesus is God. And if you ask them, did Jesus say that? Does the book say that? Does the God say that? Simple question. No. But they have attributed, not because St. Paul said it, and Paul has made it Christianity into believing Jesus being God. Because they wanted to invent, they wanted to look at these things completely different. Rather than thinking, what did God say? What has God revealed? Are we following the revelations of God? Old, because Jesus specified to them that I have not come to change anything from the previous book. Are we following that book? Are we even looking at that book? Or are we following Paul, who has now said, oh, you don't need to follow the Old Testament. You're free from that. So again, this is a very, very important area where people, whenever they have tried to dive into this area of finding God themselves without the help of revelation, they've always created a chaos. They've always created these mythologies, whether that's Greek mythology, Hindu mythology, or any other mythology. Yes, so that's a different area. Sectarianism works on. Yeah. So basically, dividing people based on the sectarianism is not error, it's haram. It's actually shirk, associating partners Allah in a different context. But some of them are based on these things, unfortunately, that they have started doing things on their own and they've added things to them. But most of them are minor, tiny things, which people who teach them do not comprehend. They don't understand that these are tiny things. They shouldn't be a sect or a group on that basis. But because they are part of this kind of club, so that club is more stronger and more important than the overall. Then it becomes unfortunate. I know that. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. There's some people who go only to the question is, some people just go to specific mosques. And I've seen people even coming to the Makkah and not offering their salah behind the Imam of the Makkah because he's not from their group. This is how terrible it can become, how extreme it can become, sadly. In their own house, either outside or in their. That's a good question. That's a very good question.
There's some people that won't even say their relation group. They just ignore it. It's like, it's not a Somali mosque, an Egyptian mosque or something like that. Listen, it's like, when did that become a thing?
I think sometimes it's just because they're familiar with the language and the people, but there is differences. But often see if it's a Bengali or Punjabi or Somali or whatever, purely because they are familiar with the language is the same, culture is the same. But there is slight differences. But on the whole, I think that's what makes.
I think on the whole, as Baji rightly said, that on the whole, that racist part is not there, and that racist part is not there, but it is more to do with the fiqh part of it, their school of thought, and what they kind of see. And as I said, if the teachers who were actually teaching them, they would tell them that this is actually a very minor difference which we can live with without having to create a different mosque. It would all pale away. Yeah. That's right. People have to understand. You have to respect each other's right of a difference of opinion. But you have to explain that difference of opinion. That if this difference of opinion is not right, it's totally wrong. You have to explain that, and let it be there. You don't fight. You don't then separate your mosques based on that.
And even in Christian states, the Catholic Protestant people, they were Catholics and Protestants, but then they both were Christians. And I'm like, wow,
sometimes I think it's because Muslims who realize we have a high frequency.
That's right.
That's not a big deal. We all have differences. I think we put that in the forefront rather than thinking. So it's they all say to the same God. I believe in the same perfectly clear. I think it's because if we're going, but even Kaaba differences, we've got to expect that people can have.
And differences have to be there. differences, difference of opinion, the way a person approaches, the way a person sees things, it's very, very important, because that's the driving force for research. That's the driving force to move forward. But unfortunately, what the sect does and sectarianism does, the fundamental teaching of sectarianism is that this is the be all and end all of it. You can neither put in nor take out. And that's where the problem starts. That they think that this sect or this school of thought has now completed everything. There is no, and not even any possibility of a mistake having been made by the great scholar, and now we can rectify that. No, how can they make a mistake? So they're beyond even prophets. They've made them even beyond prophets. And this is what happened to the Jews. This is what happened to the Christians. This is exactly, unfortunately, what happened to us. Because we consider an imam or a sheikh or a scholar beyond reproach. You know, Maulana Amin Hassan Israi is one of the really great scholars of the Quran. He once was having a discussion with another scholar of the Quran. But the other scholar of the Quran was from a sectarian group. And he said to him that, this is it. And he explained to him. And they both agreed that, yeah, this is the right explanation. And the great scholar had probably made a mistake over here. But he said to himself, but they are mutakhirin. They are the older, prior generation. And they are the older generation, so we have to take into account. And he said to him in a very jovial way, he said, don't worry, wait 50 years, we will be also mutakhirin. We'll be gone as well. So this is basically no reason or rhyme to say, well, they are older, so we have to accept that. We have to accept what is right.
That's how it's the Quran and the Hadith with the Tariq and Muslim.
Sunnah, rather than Bukhari and Muslim. Sunnah. Because in Bukhari and Muslim, you always find some, which, yes, you can sometimes find which is contradictory.
It's hard to read actually to kind of grasp
It's not actually. It's, see, as I said previously as well, it's the going to the basics. Quran and Sunnah are clear.
So,
if you read
sorry, Doctor, can you please repeat the question? Whenever there is a question, can you please say it?
Thank you. So the question was that it's difficult for reverts to actually read the hadith and find out what is right and what is not wrong. So I tried to explain that there are two things, which is Quran and Sunnah. They are categorical. I mean, Quran, you can pick up any copy of the Quran. Maybe, bit of a word using over in the translation. You might find a compassion or mercy as something like that, but you will not find a north and south pole difference in the Quran. Nothing like that at all. You can't say that the Quran says yes and say, no, it says no. It's not that. Same is the case with Sunnah. Sunnah is the perpetual passing of the practice of Prophet, peace be upon him. Like, for example, I'll tell you, because the reverts, they learn everything from the books, so they think everything is in the books. That's not the case. Every generation of Muslims has learned their salah from their father, from the society where they have grown. They haven't opened the books for learning salah. Nobody has read the book saying there are 5 prayers in them. There's two for Fajr, 4 for Zuhr, 4 for... Nobody has read that. None of the Muslims have read. They've just watched. This is called Naqlul Kafa Anil Kafa or Ilmul Amma from the Quranic, from the Sunnah perspective. That whole of the generation passes this message, or not the message, passes this method and practice to the whole of the generation. And there is no difference whatsoever. No difference. This is of Salah. Yeah. Same goes for your zakat. 2.5% we pay for the amount that where is it written? It's neither in Quran nor in Sunnah nor in Hadith. Why? It's passed generation after generation, generation after generation. Hajj, where is it? All passed again. Psalm, fasting, again passed on to generation after generation. If you really look at the Sunnah, which is the practice of Prophet, peace be upon him, which the whole Ummah is practicing, there is no difference whatsoever. No difference. It's only bits and bobs later on when you go into the Hadith, when you go into the Seerah, when you go into the other fiqh parts, that people start finding, oh, by the way, there's an opinion for this, there's an opinion for that. And even then, if you go back and ask the simple question, is the principle behind this Hadith mentioned in the Quran? And the answer is yes, you follow. If the answer is no, you either leave it or you leave it for later discussion, regardless of where